Let me guess, at this point you're really tired hearing about the creator economy. You have influencers on TikTok and Instagram and then YouTubers who actually make their money by selling digital products and courses and coaching. And then you have coaches and consultants and digital products creators and membership owners and school community owners who actually seem to spending most of their time creating content. None of this is really making sense, and you just can't explain how they're making the 10, 20, 50, $100,000 months they claim that they're making. At this point, you're wondering if anyone is making money at all, or if it's all a big scam because you just can't seem to figure it out. You've consumed all the free content, you bought the books and the courses, you hired the mentors, but nothing seems to come together for you. If any of this sounds familiar, then this video is for you. My name is Evelyn Weiss. I've been in the space since 2020, did 6 million in sales, and I'm currently at $215,000 monthly recurring revenue. And what you're missing, in my opinion, is a business plan. You're thinking it might be something different because we're in the creative economy, but every business should start with a solid business plan so that you're having the big picture of what it is that you do, how you're actually providing value to the market, and you know the important areas of your business. So now when you listen to people like me or all of those influencers that you follow in other places, you actually can assess if the opportunity that they are talking about is matching your business plan, and if the thing that they're talking about is needed in your journey and where it's needed in your journey, right? So the goal of this video is to help you get that big picture clarity in a one-pager business plan so that you have one document that you can pull up during those times when you feel overwhelmed and when you're on the fence of buying something new because you seem the thing that you bought right now doesn't seem to work. All right, so if this sounds fair, please, the only thing I'm asking is that you're watching the video all the way to the end, because at one point I need you to think this through holistically. Otherwise, you'll keep going in circles, and I want to make this really easy for you. I could easily charge for this, but I've decided to include the deep work that is underlying this one-pager business plan that we're doing in this video for free in the description. I'm not even asking your email. I'm giving it away completely for free. All I want is that you are doing the work. So please commit to watching this video and to downloading the document and doing this work at one point in time. Will it take time? Yes, it probably takes a day on your weekend. Will it save you much time and headache and heartache later down the line? Yes, I am convinced that it will, which is also why I'm making this video. All right, if that sounds fair, let's jump right in. The first element that we are defining on our business plan is your big goal that you want to achieve. Before we diving into that, we actually need to revisit how this whole creator economy thing works. The challenge is that we don't have a word for what we do. We call ourselves coaches for the lack of a better description, and we call ourselves creators for the lack of a better description. What I know we actually do is that, at least the ones of us that are truly successful and that actually provide value, we are experienced workers. So let me explain that. The majority of people in our society have big dreams and have big goals. They want certain outcomes, but what they don't want is to subject themselves to experiential burden. Experiential burden means that you are going through the experiences needed to get to the outcome. So when I am subjecting myself to the work and the experiences that are needed to get to a big goal, I am encountering cost and risk. For example, I want to learn how to do the splits in my 30s if I'm somebody who is not flexible at all. A lot of people want to achieve this goal. Just look for the search volume of how many people are looking up how to learn the splits. Now, very, very few people actually want to go through the experience of learning the splits, at least if they haven't gone through content breaking it down before. And there's successful courses teaching people how to do the splits with different techniques, because people don't want to invest the time to figure out the best methodology by themselves. Most people in our society want convenience. They want to avoid discomfort, and they don't want to take on risk. Financial risk. With splits, there's no financial risk involved, but with, for example, building a business, which is what I help people with, there's financial risk involved for sure. But with splits, there's the risk of injuring myself. People don't want to risk going after this if maybe achieving it is not feasible for them at all, right? So they don't want to start the journey if they don't see that they're able to get to the outcome, which is why they will seek out creators who are similar to them, similar age, same gender, who are also similar and flexible, and who were able to do it. Only once they have the confirmation that it's possible is when they will start to invest the time. And they also want to invest the minimum time possible, right? Which is why they're willing to buy a course about this from somebody who has found the best technique for them. So what we're actually doing is that we are taking on this experiential burden. We're going into the risk, we're going into the discomfort, and then we're productizing that experience in a consumable format so that we are relieving the risk for others and we're saving them time because we've gone through the process and we found, at least for us, for our avatar, the most effective way to do this. And this is how legit creators, legit coaches, right? However we call ourselves, actually add value to the market. We are experienced workers. We are the ones willing to take the risk and willing to take the time and willing to take the investment to pioneer going through the experience. And that's what the market is rewarding us for. And we are one person, we're going through it once, and then we can sell that experience to everyone else who wants to go for it, but don't want to encounter the risk and the cost that we are willing to encounter. And that's why the market disproportionately rewards us for doing that. That's the underlying mechanism of legitimate knowledge workers, legitimate creators who are selling stuff, and legitimate coaches who are actually creating content. So underlying value creation model, underlying monetization model is productizing experience for people who want to have it and consume it in a convenient, low risk way. That's how we're actually making money. Okay, so now with that clarified, now we can start to think about how you want to fill in that first part of your sheet. Remember, again, I have this very detailed document for you that has many more questions to go into depth, and I would highly recommend that you take the time and go through these questions. But for the sake of keeping this video consumable as well, let's just break it down. You are looking to hit high, setting a goal for yourself that you personally want to achieve, but then also many other people want to achieve, right? So like learning the split at a certain age if you're a completely unflexible person. Another cool example for this is actually one of my favorite school communities. There's a guy who teaches people how to jump higher, right? So it can be a physical skill like that. Of course, it can also be a different skill set like that. Like, for example, people want to learn how to copyright. People want to learn how to better draw portraits. One of my mastermind students is actually, her husband is teaching that very successfully. Another thing could be you are actually great at creating resources. Then, so for example, one of my students, she's creating resources for teachers, right? That can be something that you can look at. Or maybe, you want to have a high goal in the sense of, I want to build a 7-figure business like I did, right? I wanted to build a really big online business using the membership model. So think about what goals are there that you want to achieve for yourself personally that also have market value in a sense of there's a big pool of people who want to achieve the same goal, right? So that's the first thing. Now, you need to be qualifying this a little bit. So the first thing is, you need to aim really, really high, but not too high that it's unrealistic for yourself to achieve it, right? So think of, what is the highest goal I can personally aim for? It's realistic for me to achieve it. At the same time, I'm also not making it too easy for myself, right? So it needs to be ambitious and challenging, also so that you can really go through a hero journey, which makes you a likable character at the end of the day. The next element is that, again, it needs to be validated against the market. It needs to be something that a lot of people want, right? A way for you to validate it would be to go and look for YouTube videos of people teaching certain concepts. For example, there's a lot of people who want to learn the splits, but there's also many people, so many other industries where people are teaching certain concepts. So keep an eye out on YouTube videos and see where are people trying to learn something, which videos that teach people to reach a certain goals have really high views. Another pro tip is to use Perplexity AI, which basically is like ChatGPT with access to the internet. and look for what are goals that a lot of people want to achieve that are just on the edge of they're very, very valuable, and probably there's a path to monetizing it. Talking about the path to monetizing, you now also need to validate, are there people charging for helping others to achieve this goal faster? In the case, I love to use the split example just because it's from my personal journey as well. When I started to get a little bit more into yoga, because I wanted to learn inversions, actually, interestingly enough, that was the first online community I bought that was not in a professional sense. So I wanted to do, the handstand and all of these kind of things. I also wanted to be more flexible. And so I started to looking into learning the splits. And that's when I bought programs around it, right? So you would want to see what are things where there's actually coursework around it, where there are actually memberships around it, where there are actually coaches around it. So validate the goal that you set against, are there offers on the market? And last but not least, and I think when I just started to talk about how I wanted to learn the splits and how I invested into learning yoga inversions, are you passionate about it? Right? When I just talk about it and I just think about it, my heart lights up and it makes me smile. It is something that I just think is super cool to achieve. Like, I just really want to have that in my life. And so for you, this is where this passion element comes in. It needs to be something where you're like, this lights up my heart. And this is a reflection of the person who I want to become. Pick a goal that's that. When you're passionate about it, it will give you stamina. There's this German tennis player called Steffi Graf. They say about her that nobody was able to outwork her because she just loved playing so much. You didn't have to urge her to practice because all she wanted is play. Pick a goal where you're so passionate about it that all you want to do is play. For me, ultimately, it happened to be business because I also studied marketing, kind of came into the space, and all I want to do is play in this field. Nobody can outwork me because doing things like creating this video or giving feedback in my communities doesn't feel like work to me at all. I was on in my communities this week for one co-working session, 2 hours. 5 hours Zoom mentoring with my members, 1 hour feedback session, 3 hour mastermind deep work session, 2 hour training session, 5 hour mastermind deep work session. If you don't love that stuff, you're not able to do this, right? I love this stuff. I can do it all day long. Pick a goal where you're like, I can do this all day long, because then you have an opportunity to be the best. It will even not feel like work. Okay, this is the goal that we want to define. Now, the next portion that we need to look into is our values, right? So our goals are the destination. Where do we want to go? And we want to pick a destination where a lot of people want to go. Everybody wants to go to New York. So if everybody wants to go to New York, that's awesome. You are in a competitive market. That's good for you. In competitive markets, money flows. Now, the next thing is standing out in the competitive market. So how do you do that? How we're traveling to New York will make the difference. Some will want to take the plane, some will want to do a road trip in an RV, some will take a party bus, and some will take the ship, right? How do you want to travel to the final destination? Your values will direct that, and your values will be a part of what will make your audience select you as the right tour guide. You would want to really sit down and think about, what are my core values? If you've never done like core value work, this is your call to action to do this. You should know about yourself, and there's tons of free resources out there. I have one in our PLI library that I'm going to link for you below, also as a free gift. You need to figure out about yourself, what are my core values, right? And so I know about myself, for example, one of my core values is family. Another core value of mine is fairness. Another core value of mine is excellence. The decisions that I make in how I'm structuring my journey to the ultimate business that I want to build, it has guardrails that are boundaries that are dictated by my values, right? My values dictate what choices I can make when coming to the goal. And with that, they ultimately structure my journey. So do core value work, know your core values, and then align the actions, the steps that you take to get to the final outcome with your core values. That's also a good tip for prioritizing the work in front of you if you haven't yet clarified your core values. After you know your core values, you can set certain boundaries. I want to get to this journey, but I will not. For example, when I launched my mastermind, I've been doing this since 2020, did 6 million in sale, all low ticket, when I decided to launch my first mastermind for 5K a year. Now the price is going up, but that was the first high ticket offer that I ever had. And so for me, a boundary when I launched this was, I will not make promises, right? I want to launch my first mastermind, but I will not make an urgency offer at the end of the sales call. I want to launch my first mastermind, but I will not turn the discovery call just into a sales. I want them to walk away with something really valuable. And that goes back to one of my core values of being fair. This core value results for me in I approach my relationships in a way that I always want to keep the other part in a value surplus. And if I would not set these boundaries for I want to launch my mastermind, I want to make as many sales as possible until I reach my 100 people cap. But because of my values, I have these certain boundaries of how I can approach things. And the beautiful thing is that when you have picked a very ambitious goal, a very in-demand goal on your market, and you have clarity around your values and you can set certain boundaries, this will dictate your methodology. And people who have the same goals and shared values now can select your methodology as the way in which they want to achieve it as well, right? So there's a lot of coaches in my space and a lot of creators, right? Knowledge workers, experience workers in my space who also want to launch a mastermind, but they also feel icky about certain sales tactics and they actually say, this is off limits for me. So by showing them that there is a way in which you can achieve the outcome, and I have 50 members, without violating these values, without violating these boundaries, I actually become a go-to source for consuming my experience. And so that's how you would want to think about it. Now let's go back to, a not business example. Let's say your boundaries is family time, right? And you're teaching people how to do the splits and they're very busy parents. You can say, and we're going to learn the splits in a routine that doesn't take longer than 10 minutes a day. You can do it before your kids wake up or before you pick your kids up from daycare, etc. Right? So weaving in your values will help people to select you as the right guide. That's basically your positioning. This is how people who have the shared goals see if you are the right provider in your market. So define your values, define your boundaries. You should do deeper work around that. I'm going to include the long business plan working document as well as a value resource for free down below without any opt-in. So now that we have clarified goals, values, boundaries, let's talk about our audience. And I call our audience specifically the mirror audience. One thing that a lot of people who want to monetize their experience, right? So they might not call it like that, but that's actually what they want to do. One mistake that they're making is that they first off don't have the clarity about themselves, what we just did, but then they also don't have the clarity about their audience. And it's just a natural result of not having the clarity around themselves here because your audience is actually a mirror of you. The person you're teaching is your current or past self. Only when you've developed an understanding of the big goal you're aiming for, and the values and the boundaries that you have, can you develop empathy for your audience. So try to define who is my audience, who am I currently on this path and in the past. So how far did I already come? I'm assuming that this video is also viewed not only by complete beginners, but also by people that are stuck on the journey. Take an inventory of where you started and where you got it. You need to know yourself if you want to productize your experience. So look at your target audience, meaning yourself in the past and in the present, and understand next fields on our business plan. What problems did you have and are you currently having as you're trying to progress towards that goal? And look at those problems on multiple dimensions, right? So like I said in the beginning, we're taking off existential burden. We're reducing the risk. We're reducing the cost. Think of the risk and cost as in, there's like a material risk to it. There's physical, like health risks to it, but there's also emotional risks, right? So what is the pain, the emotional pain that you're trying to avoid? So when you're looking at the problems, also think in that dimension. What are the practical problems, but then also what are the emotional problems that come with it? What are the physical problems that come with it? So look at the problems that you faced in the past as you were pursuing this goal or that you're currently facing, and really try to understand the nuance of it on all of these levels. Now, once you have defined the problems, then you can say, okay, now I can work towards a solution of these problems. Well, how do you get to the solution of the problem? You flip the problem description into the opposite, which is now your sub goal of the big goal, right? And then based on your values, you define the boundaries of how you can solve this problem. So let's say one of my problems is that I don't have a working enrollment mechanism for people into my program. I solved this problem for myself by creating an almost evergreen workshop. So it's a workshop that I advertised with a lead generation campaign. There was no dates on it, so this ad is always running. Then I delivered it live, enrolled people into my community, and now it's running to a replay that gets people on a waiting list, and then from the waiting list, I'm enrolling people into my community. The problem that I had was that I don't have an affordable, consistent enrolling mechanism that I can focus on to simplify my business and customer acquisition. The opposite of that is having that system. Now, how do we get there? I'm defining my values and the boundaries of how can I have this mechanism. My value of I'm a mother and family, I want to spend time, dictated, for example, that I can't have a mechanism that's a full-on launch anymore for me in this year, just because it's taking too much time from my family. My value of excellence also dictated that I want to stop running ads directly to my school community just because they're inefficient and that doesn't align with I want to be excellent at what I do, right? And I want to find the most efficient methodology for spending my budget as an advertiser, right? Those values dictated the boundaries of how can I design this, which is why I ultimately came up with that solution. So when you're looking now at your business plan, look at the big goal first. Then look at where you are right now. What problems have you faced in the past? What problems are you currently facing? What problems are you anticipating for the future? And then think about, okay, similar to the shared goals that society has with you, what are the shared problems that they have with you? And where are people paying money to solve certain problems, right? Some problems might be small nuances, and some problems might be small but so important that people are willing to pay money to solve it. And some problems might be longer and more complex for people to solve it, right? So when we've defined those problems and we know, okay, what can be a solution, that's when we ultimately develop our products from them. Okay. So next portion is products. Let's look at products. Once you have your problems and you're thinking about, okay, what would be the solution to this problem? We can say, how can I now package solving these problems into the right container? This goes back to the scope of the problem. When we're thinking now of our products, we want to think about free productized experience, paid productized experience, and then proximity. These are the levels of how we are packaging our experience. Free productized experience can be your free content, like what I'm just doing right now. This is also me productizing my experience, making it consumable. It can also be something tangible, like me creating the short one-pager business plan for you and the long, version of it and the core values worksheet. That's productized free experience, because this is the free experience. Typically, most people would combine the productized free experience in the tangible form of a workbook or of a cheat sheet. They would conceptualize that as a lead magnet, right? So they would typically ask for an email in exchange. We are also getting other things in exchange because we're, for example, building up our audience. So even if, when we're putting this out, we don't think we have anything tangible in exchange, we actually got the subscriber, we actually got the eyeball, we actually got the attention. So we were trading the free thing against something that is actually adding value to our business, right? And being able to reach people and get people's attention is actually valuable and translates back into monetization. So that's the free level. Now, the paid level, you can do different things, right? You can also charge for these things. I have sold planners and journals like the deeper workbook that I'm sharing with you, a little bit prettier laid out in the past, right? So that would be digital products. And you can also think of all kinds of spreadsheet trackers is something that I sold. Smaller workshops is something that I sold, right? So these are kind of smaller entry point offers to your world. And I price them anywhere between $2.99 to $9. And when I put them as an order bump in the funnel, between 17 and 37. And then when I put things as one-click upsell, between $27 and $97. Sometimes even higher with a payment plan or, a subscription. This is basically like the entry point offers for productizing your experience, right? It can be smaller workshop, smaller course, smaller digital product. Those are the entry points where somebody can break into from I am a consumer, like a free consumer, I'm a subscriber, into I am now a customer, and that changes the relationship. Now you've reached like a next level as an experienced worker for them. Now they basically officially hired you. Now there's another level to how we're productizing, and this is now when it goes into proximity, right? So when we become this really valuable person that is able to reach these big goals, people are seeking proximity. Now, why does the proximity have market value? You've probably heard the saying, you're the sum of the people that you're surrounding yourself with. Because of the opportunity to build parasocial relationships, people can choose to surround themselves with us. When we're creating content, when we're creating products, right? People can choose to surround themselves with us. And if the experience that we've productized for them in the videos and in the smaller solutions is valuable for people, they're typically naturally seeking closer proximity to us, right? There's also the social phenomenon that the more valuable you are for people, the more people will seek you out. And then you have more demand arising around yourself. And because it's only you, you're becoming naturally more scarce, right? So the perceived value of proximity to you goes up. We can productize proximity through communities, paid communities. That's something I do on school, right? And they can be affordable communities starting as low as $7, which I also have, but currently closed for enrollment, going all the way up to $97, also currently on waiting list, and then all the way up to even like a mastermind setting. For you, it's important that you need to structure proximity to you in a way that it makes sense for you. So who do you want to allow close to you to maintain, your values and your hard boundaries around how you also want to live? And the other element is you need to help people to manage how much proximity they're asking for you. Because if somebody is at the very beginning of the journey of reaching that goal, proximity to you is not so valuable, right? So they first need to take the first steps that you can make easily available through free offers like your content, like lead magnets, or very low cost offers, right? Like your digital products, like your mini courses, like your workshop replays. They should first go for that before they actually should pay for proximity. And then also as they progress in their journey, they should probably first start with paying for lower proximity to you, just being able to jump on live Q&As or going into certain pop-up trainings that you're doing with your community and asking questions and immersing yourself with people that have been in your proximity for a while, right? That's also where the community comes in. And then once, they're actually much closer to reaching the goal, and now it's about nuance, and now it's about excellence, and now it's about scaling up, that's when, they will get more value from even closer proximity to you. And naturally, you will also enjoy more working with these people because it's just a better use of your time, right? You will also become a little bit tired of, repeating the same things over again. So it doesn't necessarily make sense for you to allow high proximity for somebody who is very, very much at the beginning of the journey. Structuring proximity to you in digital products, really, really important. So how you need to fill in this portion of the plan is that you need to map out what are my free products, what are my non-proximity paid products. I recommend keeping them really, really affordable. What are my proximity products, and what is the ladder of these proximity products? Nobody expects you to build out a complete value ladder offer suite like that immediately. Most of you should start with free offer, the free content. May that be, I personally use YouTube as the main platform. I use school as the secondary platform, and I use email as the owned channel. If you want to learn more about that, check out my video about how I'm focusing on audience building in 2025. And then you have your paid products, right? Which is like the entry points to your world, just that conversion from somebody who is consuming your experience for free, right? They also giving you their time, so don't forget that, or their email address, to somebody who consumes paid package experience. And what's the first community proximity offer that you would eventually want to have, right? So once you've mapped out the big picture and once you've decided which ones you create first, then we can now go into what are the big projects on the way, right? And the big projects will be arising from, this is the full suite that I want to build. So now you can say, okay, now I know what type of content I need to create. Now I know what type of lead magnet I want to create. Now I know what is the first productized offer without proximity that I want to sell. Now I know what's the first proximity offer that I want to sell. Now in this priority, what are the big one-time things that you need to do? Maybe you need to set up your YouTube channel, right? Maybe you need to create your lead magnet. You need to set up your MailerLite account and an opt-in so people can get on your email list. You maybe want to plan your first paid workshop, that you're having as your first offer, or maybe you want to plan for creating your first planner or tangible digital product journal that you would want to sell. What are the big projects that are rising from the products that you want to create? Put them in this area. And then after you have that, now what are the daily actions that I need to do, right? So once I've set up my YouTube channel and I made my content plan and I know the first things that I want to talk about, now what are the daily actions that I need to be doing as a knowledge worker? Well, I need to document my journey. Like I actually need to work on reaching that high goal that I set, right? And that will come in the dimension as in I need to define how can I make progress with this daily in like the very practical sense of making progress, but then also in the sense of how do I need to work on myself daily to become this highly valuable guide on the journey. Again, if we're taking the analogy of traveling to New York, I know I want to travel to New York. So how many steps do I need to take every single day? Right, and in what direction, and then also how am I taking the steps, right? So if I want to be a guide for others, I need to work on showing up in a way that honors my values, showing up in a way that I am becoming a likable, competent guide that people want to spend time with. And that's a big mistake that I see. People don't focus enough on the work that they need to do and just, personal flaws that need to be addressed. So for example, I see people trying to coach others on resilience or coaching others on emotional regulations or certain life topics, and then they lack basic emotional regulation skills and people skills themselves. Working towards the goal and working on me as the guide, those need to be daily actions, and you need to look at your big goal, right, and say, I need to reach this for myself. When do I want to reach it? What are significant milestones? What's a realistic time frame to achieve that? And then for every milestone breakdown, what are the action steps I need to take on a daily basis to eventually get there? Then that also becomes the travel itinerary you can share with your audience. And as you're going through the actions you've defined, and as you're going through reflecting how that's working out for you, taking those steps and being consistent, and what pops up for you, and what you're learning about yourself, and how you're evolving as a guide, the challenges you encountered on every single day, now your audience can follow alongside that because you have declared your goal and you have declared what path you're taking on. You know that you've been seeing people doing this, right? On TikTok right now, there's a trend like where people declare, I am so many 100,000 euros in debt from my student loan and from my car loan and from whatnot. And I'm using now the avalanche method to pay off my debt. And I'm documenting my journey here on TikTok. Well, most of these people eventually monetize either their TikTok through the reach or because they're also helping other people to get out of debt. It's the same idea, and it works for many, many niches as long as it's a goal that other people share, right? So your daily action steps, what's your big goal? What do you think are milestones? What's the method that you want to choose based on your values and on your boundaries? What are your weekly goals that you want to hit, right? What are your daily numbers that you want to hit? I also, for example, have for myself, don't plan on monetizing this, but I just want to give you an example for how you can do this for yourself. I have a daily tracker where I note down how many minutes of undivided attention did I spend with my son, how many minutes of undivided attention did I spend with my husband, and I aim for 30 a day. How many grams of protein did I eat on that day, and I aim for 110. How many glasses of water did I drink? How many coffees did I drink? I aim for not more than one. Did I drink alcohol? I aim to avoid it. How many hours and minutes of walking did I do? How many push-ups? How many pull-ups? How many squats? How many lunges? Did I send an email to my list? Did I work on a YouTube video? I aim to publish one every single week. Did I work on my workshop? I aim to run one every single month. Those are the big daily actions I've defined for myself to reach my ultimate goal this year, which is scaling up as a solo business in a way that I'm not sacrificing my boundaries and my relationships anymore. So those are the daily actions I've translated back from it. And every week I can see a summary of how many lunges did I do, how many pull-ups did I do, how many grams of protein did I eat, how many emails did I send, etc. Right? So it's about getting those basic KPIs set for you based on like what actions do you need to take daily. This is the doing quality, and then there's the becoming quality. So I can now look back and I can say that, so for example, my husband is now back in Canada. Yesterday was a really long day with calls. I didn't call him. I didn't spend any time with him, right? So now I can process that's not aligned with my values. I don't want to do this. I can now process how that feels. I can try to understand where things went wrong. I can try to understand how I can set myself up for success in the long haul. And if I was to monetize that, right, exactly, then this is something I could share with my audience, right? So it's the aiming for it, but then also failing and saying, okay, making my next hypothesis of how I can be better tomorrow, right? That's what you do in the daily actions. It will translate back from the big projects that you do. And then a part of this is like, okay, every day I have building time, right? So every day, 2 hours, I'm chipping away at one of my big projects, right? And then the next step is the documentation. Needs to be happening on a daily basis. I just told you I track my KPIs. And then the last thing that I do on any given day is I sit down, I turn on Loom. You can use the free version of Loom. It's a screen recorder. And I look at my goals and I reflect on what went well today, what didn't went well, what did I do well, right? Where do I have areas of improvements? Anything else that is relevant for my growth journey that would be helpful for others. And I just ramble it out. And then I have the transcript, and I've shared this in many other videos before, but you can just go head to AI, use a nurture email prompt to translate it into an email and social media post. You can use this as a foundation for a YouTube video. This is how you get to surface and extract that experience. And this is the work that you're doing for others, because people then read your emails and they see your YouTube video and they're like, this is freaking insightful. I would have never thought about that. You did that for them, right? And that's what the market is rewarding you for. So that is the big picture, one-pager business plan. If you want to succeed in this creator economy in a legitimate way, where you are actually providing value for the market because you're willing to subjecting yourself to the experiential burden, to the discomfort, to the time, to the financial investment as well that it often takes. And then you package it and translate it back in a way that is consumable, that reduces risks for them, and that makes it more likely that they achieve the same goal quicker. This is the plan for you. I hope you found this insightful. I hope you take advantage of the resources. Take your time and really work for this. If you want to become a well-paid experienced worker, you need to be able to do this work. You need to be able to get to know yourself. You need to be able to sit down and write. You need to be able to track every day. You need to be able to sit down in the evening and record your thoughts. It's like a modern version of journaling. That is ultimately the work that you do. This is where you're surfacing the insight. This is where you're productizing what you've been going through. This is how you create the value. And then the business plan helps you to translate it back to the market. Hope you found this helpful, and I see you in another video.